Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Faloki, and today we're going to be taking a look at a preview of the Week 4 matchup between the 3-0 Seattle Seahawks and the 1-2 Miami Dolphins. Going into this Week 4 matchup against the Miami Dolphins, the Seattle Seahawks are looking very strong with Russell Wilson on a historic start. 14 touchdowns in the first 3 games, he is playing out of his mind, he is doing very well, and the run game is doing pretty good for the Seahawks as well. Carson was injured last game, but he is going to be playing this game, so that is definitely a plus. Trysten Hill, or whatever his name is, the guy on the Cowboys that tried to injure him with that very dirty play, hasn't yet been suspended. I do think that there needs to be action taken against him. He'll likely get a fine, but I do think that there should definitely be a much harder punishment on him. But anyway, let's take a look at the Miami Dolphins. Last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins looked very strong, scoring 31 points and keeping the Jaguars to only 13. Of course, this is coming against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but really this was just a very good showing for the offense and the defense of the Miami Dolphins. Ryan Fitzpatrick played great, completing 18 of his 20 pass attempts for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a kind of Russell Wilson kind of game, not the 5 touchdowns or anything, but a very efficient, low-ish yards and pretty good touchdown numbers. You have someone like Dak Prescott throwing 450 yards, getting a touchdown or 2. Russell Wilson throwing like 350 yards for 5 touchdowns. A little bit lower in the yards department for how many touchdowns he's getting, but definitely doing very well, being very efficient, completing a lot of passes. Ryan Fitzpatrick is someone that almost every NFL fan knows. He's just a very good veteran that comes in, starts for a team for the first half of the season or so, does really well, and then the younger quarterback comes in and starts playing. And that's probably going to be the same situation with Tua for the Dolphins, but right now Ryan Fitzpatrick is still going to be their starter going into week 4 against the Seahawks, and he honestly is doing really well so far. And when it came to the run game last week, the Dolphins did very good there too, with 138 yards on 36 carries, 2 touchdowns, a little bit under 4 yards a carry, but still very good showing for how good their offense was overall. And honestly, last week against the Jaguars, of course a weak team, it was a very good offensive showing for the Dolphins. And when it came to the defensive side of the football for the Dolphins last week, they did do pretty well there too, having 4 sacks, forcing a fumble on Gardner Minshew, and having an interception. They really just did fine. They did fine against a pretty bad team. Of course, Russell Wilson is nowhere close to the level of Gardner Minshew. He is way above him, so it's definitely going to be much more of a challenge for the Dolphins. But the Dolphins have had a pretty tough schedule. I believe they lost to the Patriots and they lost to the Bills. They did beat the Jaguars, but they've faced 2 pretty hard teams. The Patriots, of course, as the Seahawks saw, are a very strong team. They can hold their own and do very well. And the Bills are 3-0. They're a very good team. So the Dolphins' schedule early on in the season has definitely been a big challenge for them, and playing Seattle this week, it's just going to be yet another challenge. When it comes to the Seattle Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, if not the best at this current point in time. He has 14 touchdowns in the first 3 games, 1 interception, which wasn't really his fault, and he is just playing out of his mind. DK Metcalf is doing really well. Tyler Lockett is doing really well. DK Metcalf did have a very bad play last game, which could have allowed Russell Wilson to have 6 touchdowns and 15 touchdowns in the first 3 games. That would have been absolutely insane, but of course, things happen, and it is what it is. But Russell Wilson, he is playing out of his mind. Almost no one can stop him, and against a pretty weak Dolphins defense, he's probably going to continue to do very well. Byron Jones is doubtful for the Dolphins, so of course that is just going to weaken the secondary of the Dolphins and make it easier for Russell Wilson and the Seahawks passing offense to just continue to dominate. The Dolphins run defense is not very good as well, being the 10th worst in the league, allowing almost 5 yards per carry, whereas the Seahawks have the 2nd best run defense in the league, allowing 3 yards per carry. So it'll definitely be interesting to see if the Seahawks try to focus more on the run game this week, because of course with a very weak run defense, and they're probably going to be up a lot early on, will they just go for the run and stop Russell Wilson from continuing to have 4, 5, 6 touchdowns a game? We'll have to see what happens, but honestly, I think the Seahawks are just going to continue to let Russell Wilson cook, do what Russell Wilson does. The let Russ cook thing, everyone said that it wasn't going to happen. The coaches said they weren't going to just go out and make Russell Wilson just do whatever he wants, but it looks like they are, because he is throwing a lot of shots early on in the game, which you really didn't see last year or the years before. Russell Wilson is getting opportunities to throw deep balls in the first quarter and the second quarter, whereas last year and the years before, you really wouldn't see any of those crazy shots until the second half, or at least as consistently as they are happening right now. One of my favorite things about watching the Seahawks passing offense right now is the offensive line. It definitely looks a lot better than it was last year and the years prior, and they are doing very well right now. Of course, they make some bad plays, and when they do make those bad plays, it just looks like people are walking straight by them, but when they're doing good, they are doing very good. Like when that whole offensive line is doing good, they're not letting anyone off their blocks. But when one person misses a block, it seems like everyone on that offensive line misses their block. So you're either getting sacked instantly for Russell Wilson or you're going to have a clean pocket. Like I remember, I think it was the DK Metcalf touchdown to win the game against the Cowboys. Russell Wilson had so much time in the pocket uncontested. It just seemed like a miracle that that was even happening. And I mean, that is just great to see as a Seahawks fan who's just seen Russell Wilson get sacked like 50 times every single season for the past like 6 years. So that is definitely something that's nice to see. In my opinion, I'm a big fan of watching this offensive line do well. And I think that's one of the things that's contributing to such a good passing game for the Seahawks. The offensive line looks very good in the pass game. The run game is kind of iffy. They don't look as strong as they were before. But I mean, the Seahawks offensive line is doing fine right now. Of course, some of the run plays don't look as good as they did in years prior. Some of the blocking looks a bit worse, but sometimes it looks a bit better. And the pass blocking has been so much better, levels above what it has been in years prior, so I am very happy about that. And something that I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Chris Carson is going to be playing. Trysten Hill did not do a very good job injuring him on purpose. Like I said, he should be suspended, but they seem really confident that he has done very well in practice. He seems like that injury was really nothing to him. He is playing 100%, it seems like, but if he really wasn't, I would have definitely liked to see Chris Carson sit out of this game. I don't think this is the must-win game because, I mean, if we lose to the Dolphins, that sucks, but I definitely think we'd be fine winning with, you know, someone like Carlos Hyde, Travis Homer in the backfield. I think we would have been fine, but Chris Carson is going to be healthy. He is going to be playing. That is definitely nice to see, especially for us fantasy owners of Chris Carson, because man, that injury, Trysten Hill, we hate that guy right now. And when it comes to the defense, I have no doubt in my mind that the Seahawks run defense is going to continue to be very good. Of course, the Dolphins did really well last week in the run game, and they aren't the greatest of run teams, but they do look good at times. But I do think the Seahawks run defense is very good. I thought losing Bruce Irvin would be a big loss for the run defense, and they'd probably be a little bit worse. But, you know, holding Ezekiel Elliott to what, 30-something yards is very good for any team, especially the Seahawks, who has had so many questions about their defense, but their run defense definitely seems to be the strength. This is definitely going to be a huge test for the Seahawks secondary because this really isn't the greatest of teams. Of course, you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who can do really whatever he wants. I mean, he's Fitz magic. He can have an amazing game or he can have a very bad game. Really, anything in between is a possibility. So the secondary, I mean, hopefully we don't let up another 400-yard game, but I mean, we just have to wait and see. I don't think the Dolphins should be able to get well over 400 yards like almost every other team has on us, but hopefully our secondary will do fine. Jamal Adams won't be playing, Quinton Dunbar won't be playing, Jordyn Brooks won't be playing. All of them are confirmed out for this game, which is definitely a big hit to our secondary and also our run game, because Jordyn Brooks is a good player in the run game. He made some pretty good plays last week, but really I think this is definitely a game for the Seahawks secondary to rebound and get a little bit more confidence, because of course we haven't really done good early on in the season. I mean, Russell Wilson has been scoring a ton of touchdowns. We've had leads most of the time, so teams are just throwing a ton to try to come back in games. But especially when you know teams are going to be throwing a ton to come back in games, you shouldn't be giving up big throws like the Seahawks did against the Cowboys so easily. And hopefully this game we will probably be ahead, so hopefully our secondary will get opportunities to kind of show that they can adjust to the game plan of Miami switching to really pass heavy because they are down early on. But we'll just have to see, because I think this is definitely a game where the Seahawks secondary should show out. They should get interceptions, they should make stops, they shouldn't allow over 400 yards a game like they are right now. But we'll just have to see. Like I said, without Jamal Adams, it'll be interesting. Without Quinton Dunbar, we'll have to see if Trey Flowers has another bad game. But, I mean, last week against the Cowboys, he did not look great. Hopefully, he will be able to come back, make some plays, do very well. I like Trey Flowers. He definitely has potential. And, I mean, I hope that he can live up to that potential. But last week did not look good whatsoever. And continuing with the defense, one thing that I think has to happen this week is Alton Robinson continuing to get opportunities. He played really well in the last game. He got a sack in his first game. He got some pressure on the quarterback. He was making plays in the run game. He looked really athletic, pretty fast, honestly. He looked like the guy that was hyped up in training camp, coming in a bit heavier than expected, but still super athletic and more strong. Like he looked like the guy that was super hyped out of the training camp, and it was great. He came in, made the most of his opportunities, and honestly, I was super excited to see him on the field making plays. That was probably one of the best displays of getting pressure on the quarterback for the Seahawks in a long time, and I really was enjoying watching that game. Alton Robinson, I was hyped to see him making plays, and I mean, I would like to see him continue to get opportunities, and I think he probably will. So overall, when it comes down to it, I definitely think this is going to be a very good game for the Seahawks. When it comes to the offensive side, Russell Wilson, I believe, is going to continue to do very well, get some passing touchdowns. Maybe the run game gets a little bit more involved. Chris Carson gets some big plays, and I definitely think he's going to be good for the Seahawks defense. The secondary is probably going to get a lot more confidence if they can actually stop this team from getting 400 yards. And the run defense is probably going to continue to do very well. So overall, I think this is probably going to be a big win for the Seahawks. I'm going to say something around, mid to high 30s, maybe even low 40s for the Seahawks, while the Dolphins are going to stay in the teens, maybe the low 20s. I'm going to guess right around 38-21. And with this 38-21 prediction, I'm going to say Russell Wilson cools it down a little bit. I think he'll have 4 touchdowns instead of 5 or 6. And I think Chris Carson will get his first rushing touchdown of the season. And that will obviously take away 1 touchdown from Russell Wilson's possibility of getting 5 touchdowns. But of course, I think a rushing touchdown is due to happen, especially for someone like Chris Carson, who's been running very well this season, but really hasn't gotten a touchdown to actually show for it. And one really quick thing that I wanted to mention before this video ends is our special teams. They really don't get a lot of recognition, but they have been playing really well. Michael Dixon, of course, our punter, is absolutely amazing. The man just boots the ball and it just goes super far. I'm pretty sure in the Cowboys game, we were backed up in our own 20, and then he just punted it just a straight line, and it went like 70 yards or something. Like, it was a wild punt. Honestly, it was crazy. That was the most excited I've been for a punt in a long time. I mean, Jason Myers, he's been making his extra points. He made his 1 field goal that he's had. He really hasn't been getting too many field goal opportunities because really we're just scoring touchdowns or punting the ball. But honestly, our special teams have been doing very good. Michael Dixon, of course, you kind of expected. He's a great punter. Jason Myers, I'm glad he's not missing any extra points, or, he's not really getting opportunities for field goals, but he did make the 1 opportunity that he got. So, I would like to mention our special teams and say that they've been doing a very good job for us this season. And with that, that's going to do it for this video of the preview and predictions for the Week 4 matchup between the Seahawks and the Dolphins. Of course, make sure you leave down below in the comments what you think is going to go for this game. What are your predictions? How do you think it's going to go for the Seahawks? How do you think it's going to go for the Dolphins? Make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Have a great day.